Lava roared like a living thing, swallowing falling rocks without a trace. Endless cliffs, chains, and rivers of fire stretched out in every direction across the 9 hells. High above the burning wastes, a scorched world hung in the sky, holding the deepest layer where only the strongest demons gathered. Inside the 9th hell, power crashed against power, without rest, as demons fought non-stop to prove who deserved to rule. A giant demon striped with molten light swung down with crushing force, while a red, winged brute shot up to meet the blow head-on. The striped demon slammed its weight down, and the impact tore the ground apart in a burst of light. The red demon twisted through the dust, dodging the giant's swings and driving it back with sharp, driving blows. With a roar, the red demon drove its fist forward, putting everything into one last punch to decide who ruled this pit. The blow hit, and the ground exploded upward in a tower of fire and stone, like hell itself was breaking apart. Blocks of rock shot into the air, each blast wave louder than the last. The red demon beat his wings and hovered over the smoking crater, dust clouds boiling up under him. He watched the broken ground below, waiting to see if the giant was actually down. From inside the dust, a striped horn pushed up through the rubble, proving the giant still was not done. The striped giant pulled himself upright, molten lines across his body shining through the dust. He grumbled that this was disappointing, saying he had come to the 9th hell, expecting monsters worth the rumors. Garcus threw his head back and laughed, saying the blows he had taken were nothing more than a light tickle to him. The red-winged demon, Balak, dropped down through the dust with a heavy step, staring Garcas in the eye as he scoffed that the striped brute sure loved to brag. Garcus roared at the taunt and hurled himself down with another crushing punch, rage burning in his eyes. Balak shot up to meet him without backing off, their power slamming together and lighting the 9th hell all over again. Far across the jagged cliffs, their latest clash burst into a white-hot bloom, shockwaves racing over rivers of lava as the 9th hell trembled around their fight. Another blast ripped across the 9th hell, swallowing cliffs and lava in white fire as their power tore the land open again. The shockwave shot out like a burning blade, shaving chunks off the black cliffs and hurling molten rock in every direction. Garcus leaned into the storm he had made, muscles bulging as he forced his way through the flames. Below him, Balak beat his wings hard and drove straight in, matching the giant's madness with his own. Balak curled his massive hand into a fist, packing every drop of power he had left into that single strike. The red demon rocketed up and smashed his fist into Garcus's charge, their blows meeting with a flash so bright it seemed to tear the air apart. The hit drove Garcus straight down, the ground caving in under him as Balak slammed him through rock after rock until the land burst open in a huge crater. The crater kept sinking and widening, rings of broken stone racing outward, like the whole layer of hell had been punched in the face. Balak shot out of the collapsing pit with a wild grin, eyes shining in the red gloom. Without slowing, the winged demon twisted in the air and streaked off through the falling rocks, already hunting for his next opening. The giant demon tumbled out of the sky, chains whipping around his glowing body as chunks of stone broke off him. The air burned around him from how hard he had been slammed down. The winged demon crashed down on the giant's back, grinding him through cliff after cliff until they slammed into the ground together. Dust and rock exploded outward as Balak rode the impact all the way down. A white arc of power ripped out from the crash site, carving through rock and lava like it was paper. 9th hell shook again as the blast tore a fresh wound across the land. The giant dropped out of the smoke, feet first, trying to crush his foe in one blow. Balak only planted his feet and drew back a blazing fist, ready to meet him head-on again. His fist met the giant's fall and burst into a roaring beam that drilled Garcus straight into the ground. A sun-bright blast followed, swallowing both rock and flame in a single eruption. When the blast faded, the winged demon was still there in the crater, crouched among falling stones and rolling smoke. He tightened his fists, ready for whatever came out of the dust next. His eyes narrowed, then widened as dozens of lesser demons burst out of the smoke and dove at him from every side. For a heartbeat, he was stunned that trash like this dared to jump into their fight. A heartbeat later, his body swelled, muscles bulging as he tore through the swarm and grabbed the nearest demons like toys. He dragged them along with him and snarled that tossing weaklings at him was nothing but a cheap trick. The chained giant let out a furious roar and hurled his glowing body straight down. Below, the winged demon looked up in shock as that huge shadow fell over him. The giant tucked in and dropped like a burning meteor, his whole body wrapped in molten light as he drove himself into the ground. The blow hit, and the land just shattered, chunks of rock blasting upward as waves of fire ripped through the crater again and again. When the dust started to clear, the giant pushed himself up through the rubble, grinning wide as if the blast had only warmed him up. He leaned over the edge of the broken ground, staring into the boiling lava below, as if checking whether his foe had been buried for good. Far below that wall of smoke, the winged demon stepped forward with fire curling around his fists, glaring up at the giant who still towered over the crater. He kicked off the ground, flames roaring around his arm as he formed a blazing sphere and hurled it forward, saying he was done playing around. The fireball streaked across the broken land and slammed into the giant's raised fist, heat and force smashing together as the two demons met head-on once more. The golden giant demon roared and hurled himself forward, jaws blazing like a furnace as he rushed in for another crushing blow. The fireball slammed straight into the giant's chest, light bursting out in all directions as the hit finally connected full force. The winged demon drove his blazing fist in harder, forcing the fireball deeper into the giant's body as he bragged that the true strongest demon in the ninth hell was standing right here. Riding the burning sphere, the winged demon bored straight through the giant's body, stone-like flesh shattering as they crashed downward in a blazing spiral. The red demon dropped out of the dust and hit the ground hard, lava and broken rock jumping around his feet as he steadied himself. Behind him, a fresh crater glowed like a small sun, one more scar on a land already torn apart by countless battles for the top. The red demon lifted his head, golden eyes burning with a will. Every demon in the hall went quiet as their ruler stepped onto the carpet, wings folded and one knee pressed to the floor, his very presence squeezing the breath out of the crowd. This was the Demon King's castle, the one place in all of hell where every path, every chain, and every kneeling back led straight to a single throne. The Demon King burned with purple fire, a horned shadow towering over hell itself, the clear peak that every other demon could only look up to. One of his strongest followers bowed low, voice shaking as he asked why their ruler would ever want to leave when all of hell already lay at his feet. The Demon King only rested his chin on his hand and stared down at them, letting a long, cold silence say that this throne no longer excited him at all. Purple energy crawled over his armor like living fire, the kind of power that could swallow whole armies without even slowing down. When that power leaked out, the floor cracked and purple fire roared, forcing even his proudest warrior to jerk back, reminded that serving the Demon King meant living beside a walking disaster. They all knew this was the power of gluttony, the same twisted hunger that had let him swallow every demon he could reach and bring down the 7 princes of hell, monsters so strong they had never managed to finish each other off. One of the strongest demons was dragged under by those purple claws, his body breaking apart as the Demon King's hunger swallowed him whole. Watching that, the red warrior froze, sweating as the shadow of gluttony stretched over him like it was ready to eat him next. The Demon King let his clawed hand drift toward his servant, wondering how anyone could say he had it all when this place felt so empty. As his tail wrapped around the warrior like a toy, Kang Wu grumbled that he had been stuck in this cursed place for 10,000 years already. Power pulsed along his scaled tail as he squeezed, not out of anger, but out of sheer frustration with a throne that had long since lost its charm. Kang Wu burst into crazed laughter, yelling that there was nothing here worth having, no food, no joy, nothing but power he was sick of holding. One of the higher demons took his words as a sign of hunger and barked for a feast, sending the rest of the hall racing to obey. Soon, a mountain of food was carried down the carpet, and the eager servant begged the demon king to accept this tiny gift from followers who knew it was nothing compared to the tens of thousands he had already devoured. One of the demons slammed a huge red fist onto the silver lid, ready to show off the grand dish he was sure would please his starving king. When the lid lifted, a slimy tentacled demon head flopped onto the plate, oozing blue slime as the servant proudly offered the last big force of the princes as a snack. Kang Woo's blade flashed across the hall, sending the servant and the ugly head flying as he roared that he would never eat something like that. The lump of tentacles twitched in a puddle of slime, so hideous and foul that Kang Woo spat out that he did not even want to consume something this awful. Jaw tight and eyes burning, the demon king hauled the servant up by the throat, purple energy raging around them as he stammered that there was something else he wanted instead. In his mind, the darkness of hell vanished, replaced by a shining pot of bubbling kimchi jjigae as he cried out that this was what he wanted to eat. The gathered demons shrieked in shock, calling kimchi jjigae the ultimate food their gluttonous king desired, as if he had just named some forbidden feast of legends. Pumped up by their own nonsense, a pair of demons raised a tray, piled with something so raw and brutal it had to be blurred, proudly claiming this mess of crimson flesh was the stew their king had asked for. The red brute promised to rip apart any head or innards Kang Woo wanted, proud of how far he would go for this stew. Kang Woo just sighed, because none of them even knew what kimchi jjigae was supposed to be. In hell, demons did not have meals. They just tore into enemies after a fight. To them, chewing on a fresh skull was normal food, so of course they could not understand what Kang Woo wanted. The demons guessed he was just bored now that the 7 princes were gone, and praised him as the true king of slaughter. Kang Woo snapped back that they were missing the point, and yelled that he wanted stories to read, not more battles. His patience finally broke, and his huge fist crashed into the floor hard enough to shake the throne room. The flustered servant burst into tears, begging Kang Woo to end him for doing such a terrible job, while the king just shouted for him to calm down and listen. As the servant kept begging to be finished off, Kang Woo turned away with a tired sigh and admitted that what he really wished for was somebody he could love. He barely finished the thought when a tall woman in a flowing black dress started down the red carpet, asking if he was looking for someone to love someone like her. It was Lilith, the queen of succubi, each step of her heels slow and graceful, known across hell as the most beautiful woman to ever walk its halls. Lilith pressed a hand to her chest and smiled, calling out to her king in a soft, tempting tone, as if she were the perfect answer to his lonely wish. She asked if he really was not happy with her love, then shifted into her true form, full of eyes and horns, clutching at her chest and whining that he was being cruel to the queen of succubi. The demon king stared at her in horror, his stone-like skin cracking as if his whole body rejected what he was seeing. Dark power flared around the demon king as he barked that, as her ruler, she was forbidden to come any closer, and that he would deal with her himself if she did, while Lilith hugged her burning cheeks, convinced he was just too shy to handle her. Lilith's slimy limbs wrapped tighter around his arm, while he twisted away in panic, and down below the watching demons squealed with envy, joking that their mighty king was acting way too shy for someone who ruled all of hell. Even as the red brute hurried toward the throne, Kang Woo squirmed in Lilith's grip and shouted for her to get away, begging all succubi not to copy the looks of pretty women and just leave him alone. As Lilith grinned with all those eyes and teeth, the demon king found himself thinking that, next to her, the red brute Balak almost seemed cute. In his mind, Balak popped up as a tiny, bright-eyed version of himself, cheerfully asking if he should take out every last one of them for his beloved king. Kang Woo shook where he stood, staring into the white swirl above like it might swallow him, and he finally admitted to himself that this whole place, and everyone in it, was just too much to bear. He clenched his armored fist, forcing his breath to steady as one thought cut through the chaos. He had to get back to Earth, no matter what it took. Balak lurched forward, and Lilith froze mid-step, both of them staring at their king in alarm as they felt that his mood had shifted into something they could not stop. The Red Warrior threw his voice across the throne room, swearing that the resolve he had held for 10,000 years would not break, no matter what his king chose. Kang Wu rested his hands together and watched them in silence, feeling that their unshaken loyalty did not hold him back at all. If anything, it only made his choice feel even more solid. Purple energy crawled over his armor as Kang Wu tightened his grip on the throne, knowing that the moment he had been waiting for all these years had finally come. With a sharp grin, Kang Wu called out to Balak and told his loyal warrior to get their hidden trump card ready, signaling that they were finally putting their plan to leave Hell into motion. He had finally ordered their hidden trump card to be brought out, the one they only ever called the Thing. Balak stammered out a weak answer, and Kang Wu's aura exploded, twisting into a huge, snarling maw behind him as he reminded his warrior that he did not repeat himself for no reason. Shaken to his core, Balak bent low and rushed to apologize, swearing he would ready the Thing at once. The Red Warrior spun around and roared at the gathered demons to bring Amun and prepare the armors of the 7 princes of Hell, and the whole hall answered at once, ready to move. Far deeper inside, the robed elder lifted a staff crowned with skulls and began the ritual that would wake the power tied to those armors. Cold stone figures of horned demons loomed in the glow, hairline cracks crawling over them as the ritual's power seeped into their bodies. Before them, a blinding spiral of light rose from a nest of stone under giant demon statues, and Balak stepped up to report that every last part of the plan was ready. Lilith watched him in silence, clutching at her chest as she softly called him Rich, the name she used only when she was most afraid of losing him. The beast they had kept hidden shuddered awake, its huge claws glowing with thick purple energy that shook the ground. The Red Ruler clenched his fists as Lilith watched in tight silence, both of them knowing they had just unleashed something that could tear open worlds. Kang Wu climbed the worn stone steps toward the robed sorcerer, the light from the ritual circle washing over his back. The elder bowed his head and greeted him as his ruler, making it clear everything here had been set up for Kang Wu alone. The black sorcerer leaned close to Kang Wu and explained that if he poured this much magic into the armors of the 7 princes of Hell, the power would not stay quiet. It could twist time and space itself, ripping open a forced crack between worlds. Aemon, the black sorcerer, laid it out without sugarcoating anything, saying that the ritual might force a hole through the very walls of the dimension. Even he, who dealt with curses and death every day, sounded unsure if this was something they should really be doing. Kang Wu listened, eyes glowing red, then brushed the warning aside and told Aemon to begin. For him, the danger of tearing space was nothing compared to the chance of finally escaping this place. Purple-black energy surged up around Kang Wu, climbing his body like living smoke as the statue behind him seemed to watch. As the power wrapped him tighter, one thought drowned out everything else in his head. After 10,000 years in Hell, he might finally be going home. Kang Wu's body slipped into a roaring sea of violet demonic energy, the myriad demon palace that he alone ruled. He stood still with his eyes closed, letting that endless power carry him toward the crack that would lead out of Hell. The endless demonic sea twisted into a raging stream, squeezing itself into a bright sphere that pressed against the darkness below. Then it broke through, a single drop falling into the waiting pool as Kang Wu's power and body slipped out of Hell and into a new world. The power Kang Wu poured out slammed into the altar, rising as a blinding pillar between the horned statues and shaking the whole palace. The Demon King's body rode the pillar like a spear, shooting upward toward the torn sky, while the black sorcerer clung to his staff, barely holding his ground against the storm. The black sorcerer stared up at the myriad demon palace, made flesh, gripping his skull staff as he gasped that this sea of demonic energy was so huge it was almost painful to look at. Around the altar, the horned armors that had slept for ages started to hum, stone fingers twitching as purple light leaked from the gaps in their helms. One armor lifted its head, and twin beams of light burst from its eye slits as power flooded its stone body, turning it from a statue into a living weapon. One after another, the 7 armors stretched out their hands toward the blazing core. Chains of light tying them together as they help twist that power into a path between worlds. The sorcerer yelled up to his ruler that every one of the 7 armors was now awake, and that even if Kang Wu escaped, the gate they had forced open would soon tear fully into the other world. Kang Wu rose higher, thinking that even if he had no family, no lover, and not a single friend waiting, any world was better than this empty hell. So he would take his chance and go. Below him, Lilith ran after the fading light with tears in her eyes, calling out to her king as he slipped away. Kang Wu hears Lilith start to sniffle behind him, and his eye twitches. The huge horned demon clutches her while she bawls, begging to know if he is really going to leave her here alone. For someone who ruled all of hell, getting cried over like this is way scarier than any battle. He grips his cloak and mutters that this whole clingy act honestly scares him. Behind him, the red demon beams, and Lilith practically melts with hearts in her eyes, taking his offhand comment as proof of deep care instead of a warning sign. Lilith hugs herself, cheeks burning, convinced that her king just showed her rare kindness. Her heart races so hard, she feels like it might burst right out of her chest. Her fingers dig into her dress as her chest tightens, strange bubbles of energy rising with each heavy beat of her heart. A wet splash hits his back, and Kang Wu stiffens, glancing over his shoulder as more bubbles drift past him. Whatever Lilith just did, he knows it cannot be good for his clean escape. His eyes bulge as a strange force grabs hold of him, bubbles wrapping around his body. For a second, the Demon King forgets all dignity and just panics. Power bursts out from Lilith and slams into Kang Wu, hurling him straight through the cracking wall of light. He lets out a raw shout, cursing as his body is tossed toward the path between worlds. Lilith's voice cracks as she calls out to her king, begging to go with him, her body glowing at the broken gate. Kang Wu tucks his head and dives into the rushing blue tunnel, pushing forward before anything else in hell can drag him back. Kang Wu lets the strange current carry him, body twisting through the blue tunnel as tiny lights drift past like stars. The panic from before fades, and a crooked smile tugs at his lips as he thinks about finally getting out. Kang Wu throws one last rude gesture toward hell, grinning as he tells the whole place that meeting them was awful, and he never wants to see them again. As he drifts through the blue void, Kang Wu thinks about it clearly for the first time in ages. He has been stuck in hell for 10,000 years. He decides there is no past he wants to fix, and no grand future he is chasing. He just wants to reach the same Earth he once knew and nothing else. A huge grin spreads across his face as he thinks he is finally heading back to Earth, but then the device at his feet flares with wild light and a cold message appears, reporting that some kind of core crack has been found. A red web of light snaps shut around the chamber as a new notice declares that something called the Gaia system has started, leaving Kang Wu staring around and demanding to know what this sudden lockdown is. The Gaia system floods the air with warning windows, all screaming that the power inside his core is way beyond what this world system is built to handle. The system suddenly locks everything down, throwing up a warning that every dimension has turned on its defenses because of him. Kang Wu stares at the red grid around him, baffled that his core alone is enough to trigger a full emergency. The Gaia system flashes another notice, warning that it is about to overload under the weight of his power. Blinding energy rips across the red barrier, like his core is chewing straight through the defenses meant to hold it back. The blast slams into Kang Wu, and raw power explodes out of him in every direction as he screams, barely staying conscious. Warnings flip from overload to failure as the Gaia system struggles with the strange device. It finally admits it cannot fully erase the crack in his core, no matter what it does. With no way to erase the crack, the Gaia system switches plans and starts forcing a limiting seal onto Kang Wu, chaining his raging power down inside his own body. Kang Wu reaches into the blinding light, trying to push back against the seal and raging at whatever is doing this to him. His glare stays sharp for a moment longer, then the strength drains from his eye as the seal wins and his power is forced down. When he opens his eyes again, the red grid and crushing energy are gone, replaced by warm sunlight and soft grass under his head. Kang-woo lets out a shaky breath and smiles, realizing he actually made it out. Warm sunlight and thick green leaves spread out above Kang-woo as he lies on the grass, stunned. After 10,000 years of wasteland, a normal forest feels almost unreal, and he wonders if he really made it back to Earth. Kang-woo forces himself upright with a pained grunt, sweat running down his cheek. Wonder can wait. First he needs to know what kind of shape his body is in, so he calls up his status window. The familiar system chime rings out, and a translucent window pops up beside Kang-woo. He narrows his eyes and leans in, ready to see how badly that seal messed him up. The system calmly lists him as O Kang-woo, level 1, with the power of gluttony as his first awakening trait, but almost all of it locked away. His strength, stamina, and other stats sit at laughably low numbers, and even his future awakening is hidden behind question marks. A red line on the window spells it out, saying that most of the power of gluttony is sealed and that his next special ability only unlocks at level 10. Kang-woo stares at the question marks, trying to process how the Demon King got shoved down to a beginner. Kang-woo's eyes widen as the truth sinks in. The Gaia system really did clamp down on his strength. The Demon King of Hell has been shoved into a weak, sealed body. A chorus of sharp cries rips through the trees, and a pack of twisted green creatures bursts out of the brush. Kang-woo presses his fingers to his temple and stares at the floating window, trying to see exactly how badly the system cut him down. The window lists O Kang-woo as level 1, with the power of gluttony as his first awakening, most of it sealed, and laughably low stats that would shame a rookie. It even spells out that most of that gluttonous power is locked and that his next special ability will only open at level 10, turning his path forward into a grind. Kang-woo's eyes harden as it hits him that his powers really have been sealed, leaving the Demon King stuck in a body that barely counts as strong. A pack of twisted green creatures bursts from the trees and sprints straight at him, and Kang-woo swears under his breath, knowing there were never things like this on the old Earth. Purple energy whirls around Kang-woo as he shoots forward, deciding to clear out the monsters first before thinking about what comes next. Mid-charge, his body lurches and he clutches his side, shocked at how thin and weak his demonic energy feels compared to the endless power he had inside the myriad demon palace. He slips between their swinging blades and lands in the middle of the pack with a short breath of relief, knowing he can still handle them for now. Kang-woo decides to stop testing things and pulls out one of the powers he stole in Hell, hurling himself at the goblins in a blur. A single swing tears through the group, sending their bodies flying apart in a clean arc. The Demon King twists in the air as his right arm warps, stretching into a jagged black blade born from Demon Ilzabnok's power. Even sealed, that stolen authority turns his thin body into a living weapon. His gaze sharpens, and the goblin barely has time to raise its club before the blade arm cuts it down. A blue window pops up, calmly stating that he has dealt with an E-rank goblin and earned experience for it. He does not slow down, carving through the rest of the pack until the air is full of fading bodies and purple mist. Another notice appears, telling him he has already climbed to level 4. He looks around at the bodies scattered across the grass and frowns, trying to figure out why creatures like this are roaming what should be Earth. The steady stream of experience messages runs through his head, and he can tell it is not just numbers. His muscles, senses, and demonic energy all feel a bit sharper already. With the rush of battle fading, Kang-woo decides that swinging his arm around blindly will not be enough. He plans to figure out what this forest, these monsters, and this strange system actually are before going any deeper. He spreads his arms and calls up the authority that carried him through 10,000 years in Hell, letting dark, hungry maws bloom from his cloak. The power of gluttony reaches out toward the goblin bodies, ready to swallow their flesh, stats, and memories whole. The goblins vanish into the swirling maws, and data about their bodies and weak points flows into his mind, familiar and easy to sort through. But there is nothing about the rules of this world itself, only a small notice that his demonic energy has climbed by 1, reminding him that even sealed, this power is still his fastest way to grow. Kang-woo freezes as he feels the power settling in his body and realizes it is pure demonic energy, something that should not exist here at all. Dark energy crawls around his feet, turning the ground into a red pit scattered with bones, and Kang-woo curses as it hits him that if demonic energy is here, this place might not be Earth at all. He grabs his head with his warped hand, shaking as he thinks back on 10,000 years in hell and the one thing that kept him going, the hope of someday getting back to Earth, and he refuses to accept that it might have all been for nothing. A sharp noise cuts through his thoughts, and his eye snaps wide as he turns toward it on instinct. Standing in the quiet forest, Kang-woo listens hard to the distant scream and quickly decides it does not sound like any monster or demon he knows. Another cry rings out, and Kang-woo's eyes light up as he realizes it is a human voice, the first one he has heard in ages. He calls on Valfur's power of speed and shoots through the trees like a bolt of light, desperate to reach the human voice he has been waiting 10,000 years to hear. As he tears across the forest floor, Kang-woo does not even care if the person is pretty. After 10,000 years of tentacled freaks, he just prays they have a normal face, and above all, no tentacles at all. Kang-woo grits his teeth, thinking back to the clingy demon girl with way too many limbs, and swears he is done with anything that has tentacles. He bursts out of the trees and spots a pack of ugly little monsters swarming toward a girl pinned against a trunk. The purple-haired girl, clearly human, trembles against the tree as the goblins close in, claws and crude weapons ready. His eyes run over the girl's tear-filled gaze, her soft lips with a tiny mole, and her slim figure, ticking off each normal feature like a miracle. He lets out a shaky breath, overjoyed that she is just a normal girl with normal limbs and not a single tentacle in sight. Kang-woo stares at her, stunned, his heart pounding as it sinks in that this is a real human girl standing in front of him. All that tension snaps, and Kang-woo throws his head back and bawls with joy, clenching his fists like he has just been granted the greatest reward in the universe. While Kang-woo is bursting with joy, the goblins step in, one lifting its blade as Seola lies bruised against the tree, blinking weakly at the sudden shift in the air. Kang-woo bursts past the girl, cloak whipping out, and slams the nearest goblin into the grass so hard it stops moving. He plants himself between her and the rest of the monsters, eyes cold and focused. Moments later, the clearing is full of fallen goblins, and only Kang-woo is left standing. He steps through the bodies toward the girl at the tree, holding out a hand to help her up. Sunlight spills over Kang-woo as he stands there with his hand open, the wild look gone from his face. The ruthless hunter from a moment ago now just looks like a guy asking if she can stand. The girl stares up at him, cheeks red and eyes shining with relief, then stammers out her thanks as she reaches for his hand. For her, this stranger just turned a hopeless moment into a second chance. Their fingers meet, and he closes his gloved hand gently around hers as warm light seems to bloom between them. For someone who spent ages grabbing only claws and fangs, the feel of a soft human hand hits him like a shock. Kang-woo just stares, frozen, eyes wide, like he has been hit by something far stronger than any spell. In his head, alarms are blaring, but all he can think is how bright and unreal this girl feels compared to hell. Still gripping his hand, the girl smiles and introduces herself, thanking him again for saving her. Kang-woo stands there, trembling like a rookie, his mind racing while he tries to act like this is no big deal. A beat later, the mood turns almost silly as Kang-woo keeps shaking, face bright red under his hood. Sol-ah tilts her head, worried and a little confused, gently asking if he is okay. Kang-woo jerks his hand back like he just touched fire, and Sol-ah lets out a startled cry as their grip snaps apart. Overloaded by her smile and soft hand, Kang-woo leans in with wild eyes and without thinking, begs Sol-ah to marry him on the spot, gripping her hand like it is the only thing keeping him on Earth. Sol-ah's thoughts freeze completely as she tries to understand if this crazy proposal actually just happened. Kang-woo clutches Seola's hands like a lifeline, eyes sparkling as he throws out a full-on marriage proposal. After 10,000 years in hell, he has no filter left, and all that joy just explodes at once, leaving her frozen in total shock. Seola stares at their joined hands, her smile twitching as her brain tries to catch up with what she just heard. She starts to ask what on earth he means, while Kang-woo suddenly realizes he might have gone gone way too far. Kang Woo waves his hands in a panic and hurriedly introduces himself, acting like that proposal was just him getting carried away. Seola tilts her head, still clutching his hand, trying to figure out if this guy is crazy or just awkward. Seola presses a hand to her chest and gives a small, shy smile, saying her wounds are not that bad. She thanks Kang Woo again, clearly flustered, but trying to keep things polite. When Seola puts weight on her legs, the scrapes and torn skin say what her smile did not, and she wobbles as pain shoots up from her knee. Her strength suddenly gives out, and Seola pitches forward, crashing into Kang Woo's chest. He grabs her on instinct, eyes wide, all the silly romance burned away by real worry. Kang Woo's gaze sharpens, his red eye narrowing as something on the ground catches his attention, and a wild thought hits him. A slim rectangle lies in the grass, and Kang Woo almost laughs when he realizes it is just a normal smartphone, proof that he really made it back to Earth. With that weight lifting off his chest, he guides Seola to sit against the tree and calmly starts cleaning her leg, telling her to relax while he handles the first aid. While he wraps her knee, Kang Woo thinks back to how he banned demon speech in Hell and made everyone use Korean, just so he would not forget it. Now, being able to chat in the same language with an actual human feels almost unreal to him. He finishes tying the bandage and says the treatment should ease her pain. Kang Woo laughs off her gratitude and holds out the sleek smartphone he picked up, saying she must have dropped it. Just that small, familiar device makes this strange forest feel a lot more like home. Seola takes the phone with a soft thanks, her thumb waking the screen. The date blinking back at them hits Kang Woo like a punch, and he realizes 5 whole years have slipped by on Earth since he vanished into Hell. Kang Woo frowns, sure he had lined up the time flow better than this, and wonders how Earth filled with monsters so fast. With Seola still shaky, he tells her they should stay put and catch their breath. As the goblin bodies cool nearby, he decides his next move has to be learning how this new world works. Once her breathing evens out, Kang Woo asks what brought her this deep into a gate by herself. Seola gives a shy smile and says it is a long story, but in short, she had come here to hunt the gate alone. Seola admits she only awakened as a player recently, but still thought she could clear an E-rank gate on her own. Looking embarrassed, she calls that choice stupid now that she has seen how close it brought her to never walking out. She talks about parties and hunting like it is the most normal thing in the world, then mentions she is only level 6 so far. Thinking he must be a proper player too, Seola leans closer and asks what someone like him was doing alone in a place like this. Kang Woo gives a sheepish smile and claims his level is probably lower than hers, saying his own story would take a while to explain. Watching her nod and chat like he is just another rookie, he figures he cannot blame her for seeing him that way while they sit there surrounded by the bodies he took down in an instant. Seola lets out a small laugh, her shoulders easing as she admits he has a point about her situation. Still red in the face, Seola pushes herself up from the tree, clearly too embarrassed to keep sitting so close. The moment she puts weight on her leg, the bandaged knee strains and her scraped skin protests. Kang Woo suggests they head out, worried the wound looked serious, and Seola insists she can manage now thanks to his help. When Kang Woo moves to steady her, Seola waves her arms in a panic, saying she does not want to trouble him any more than she already has. Kang Woo calmly tells her that turning down help in this state is nothing to be proud of, and declares he will see her safely to the exit. So Seola, still blushing, points out the path and agrees to depend on him until they reach it. With her leaning lightly on his side, Kang Woo guides her through the trees, thinking that for someone who has not spoken to a human in 10,000 years, he handled things pretty well, and Seola does not seem to suspect what he really is. So he plans to keep blending into this world step by step. After a slow walk, Seola tells Kang Woo they have reached the entrance, and he stares up at the huge blue whirl in the tree trunk, realizing this strange portal is the kind of gate that now links Earth to other worlds. Kang Woo studies the glowing path and calmly works it out, knowing that traveling through a space rift like this means the place beyond cannot be regular Earth. The Demon King eyes the roaring blue gate and frowns, since he sees no artifact strong enough to rip space like this, and starts wondering what kind of system can keep a rift this big, open on its own. Sayola beams and says her leg feels much better now, and Kang-woo, still holding her hand, agrees they should hurry out while she can still walk on her own. They step into the roaring blue light, and the pull of the gate grabs them at once, hurling Kang-woo down a twisting tunnel of color that tears past his face like a storm. The rush of light dies down, and Kang-woo lowers his arm and opens his red eye wide, ready to check what kind of place this gate has dropped him into. In a busy lobby, a man shouts that he is forming a party for an E-rank goblin hunt, then glances at the cloaked newcomer and mutters in relief that this one at least has a normal pair of eyes. Other players glance over status screens and quietly tick off that the newcomer has one nose, one mouth, and no tentacles, while a hopeful bandit asks to join the hunt and gets awkwardly turned down right in front of Kang-woo and Sayola. Kang-woo steps onto the sunlit plaza and stares at the busy streets, stunned that after 10,000 years of demons and wastelands, his view is now a city packed wall to wall with living, breathing humans. Kang-woo's hands bunch up his cloak as if he is trying to hold himself together, and Sayola stares up at him, startled by how hard he is shaking. Tears stream down Kang-woo's face as he looks up at the sky, finally letting himself believe that after 10,000 years in hell, he is truly back on Earth. Sayola watches his back with a small frown, wondering why a simple return to the city made him cry like that. Her bandaged leg is still marked with bruises, a quiet reminder that without him, she might not be standing here at all. Sayola bows her head and shyly calls his name, and Kang-woo turns back to her at once, curious what she wants. The healer stammers out an offer to cook for him at her place, and Kang-woo's face burns red as the words sink in. As Sayola smiles and says she wants to thank him with a home-cooked meal, Kang-woo's mind explodes with pink petals and hearts, convinced that his long, lonely winter is finally over. Kang-woo quickly wipes the goofy grin off his face, strikes a cool pose, and loudly claims that turning down kindness would be wrong, calling out to the others to wait as if he is doing something noble instead of just chasing a free meal. Just as Kang-woo is about to follow Sayola into the city, a group of armed guards steps in and calmly asks to see their player cards. His hand tightens on his cloak as he realizes this simple check could expose that he should not even be here. Sayola quickly pulls out her card, trying to smooth things over, and the guard turns to Kang-woo, asking for his next. He curses inside, knowing he has nothing to show, and decides he has no choice but to rely on a forbidden trick from hell. The Demon King lets demonic energy surge into his eye, and the calm black turns into a glowing green slit as he readies the authority he kept hidden for 10,000 years. Invisible to everyone else, a hulking green demon wraps its claws over the guard's eyes as Kang-woo's authority of oblivion takes hold, twisting the man's senses so that any card he looks at will seem perfectly normal. The guard's pupils twist into eerie pink slits, but his face stays blank as he calmly confirms that the card in front of him checks out. Kang-woo lets out a quiet breath of relief, pleased that the authority worked, and cheerfully tells Sayola they should get going. Behind them, one guard nudges his spaced-out partner, grumbling that their shift is almost over. A short walk later, Sayola stops in front of a simple apartment building and tells Kang-woo that this is where she lives, the place where she plans to thank him properly. Sayola laughs softly as she explains that her building has no elevator, so they will have to climb the stairs. Kang-woo, cheeks warm, quickly says he does not mind at all, more focused on the fact that he is finally stepping into her world. Kang-woo breathes in the musty air of the old apartment, and his cheeks warm up. For someone who spent 10,000 years in hell, even this worn-out place feels cozy. He trails behind Sayola up the narrow stairway, fingers brushing the cold metal rail. Even this cramped climb feels like proof that he is finally living in a normal world again. Light slips through a dusty window as he keeps climbing, and his steps slow. It finally starts to sink in that he is not dreaming, and this worn stairwell is part of his new life. His heart races as he remembers that, out of everywhere on Earth, he is heading to Sayola's own place. In his mind, this simple visit turns into the start of a long, happy future he is sure he can grab. Kang-woo's cheeks burn as he grins to himself, thinking how wild it is that, out of everywhere on Earth, He is actually heading to Seola's own place. Seola happily calls out to her mom as she steps inside, while a tiny version of Kang-woo, in his head, celebrates the happy future he is sure is coming. Then the word mom really hits him, and he stiffens at the door, whispering it like he cannot believe he is about to face her. Seola's mom grabs her shoulders and looks her over, asking if she is hurt and reminding her she was supposed to go with a party. Seola laughs weakly and insists it was fine, while Kang-woo, just out of sight, wonders if this kind woman really invited a guy like him over just for a simple meal. Realizing she has left him hanging, Seola quickly turns and tells her mom that the guy with her is named Oh Kang-woo. Seola explains that Kang-woo saved her when things got dangerous, so she brought him over to thank him with a meal. Kang-woo gives a polite hello, and Seola's mom studies him with wide eyes, already moved before they even step inside. Seola's mom reaches out and wraps both hands around Kang-woo's, squeezing tight as she thanks him again and again for what he did. Seola's mom tells Kang-woo she has no idea how to repay someone who saved her daughter, her voice full of relief. He rubs the back of his neck and insists it was nothing, while Seola watches them with a shy, proud smile. Seola's mom steps aside and waves him in, saying their place is simple, but she will at least make him a good meal. Kang-woo bows his head and steps over the threshold, feeling like he is walking into the kind of home he has always wished for. Kang-woo thinks it is a shame he will not be eating alone with Seola, but when he remembers 10,000 years in hell, even this simple family meal feels like a gift. Seola's mom claps her hands and asks her daughter to help with the cooking, already moving toward the kitchen like this is just another normal evening. As Seola promises her mom she will text whenever she heads somewhere risky, she waves her phone with a sheepish grin. Watching them, Kang-woo suddenly realizes how useful a cell phone would be for him here, and snaps to the thought like he just found a treasure. Kang-woo asks if he can borrow her phone for a bit, saying his own is gone. Seola does not hesitate at all, and happily offers it over, still smiling as if lending her whole lifeline is no big deal. Seola presses the phone into his hand and tells him to make himself comfortable, while she and her mom get his food ready. Kang-woo accepts it carefully, feeling how open and trusting this house already is toward him. Sitting at the table, Kang-woo runs his finger over the smooth screen, watching the icons move and light up. After 10,000 years in a wasteland, even this little piece of Earth tech makes his chest ache with joy. Kang-woo shakes his head, scolding himself for getting carried away, and opens the browser instead. He starts digging through articles from the year he vanished, fingers flying as he looks for the moment everything on Earth changed. The reports show blue holes tearing open above crowded cities, spilling out horned beasts that crush tanks and soldiers like toys. With normal weapons barely working, countries scramble to form a joint emergency force, and Korea signs on as one more piece in a desperate world defense. The news explains how a woman in America awakened first, and after her, more and more people gained strange powers and were named players, quickly becoming the main hope against the gates. Kang-woo sits hunched over the table, eyes fixed on the screen, trying to fit himself and his sealed demonic strength into this new world built around them. Kang-woo scrolls through the article about the strange gate that opened in the middle of Seoul, feeling the date and place line up a little too well with his own memory. As he reads, the memory slams back into him of that day in front of the store when a red vortex wrapped around his body and yanked him away. Kang-woo stares at the phone, stunned, as he realizes this outbreak report is talking about the very day he fell into hell. The Demon King frowns, realizing he must have been swept up by one of the many gates that opened at once that day. But he can tell these reports are mostly guesses, so he decides to dig into the truth properly later instead of trusting half-baked news. His heavy thoughts break as Seola's mom calls out that the food is ready, stepping up to the table with a bright smile. Kang-woo quickly straightens and thanks her, the simple kindness pulling him back to the present. When he finally sees what she set down, Kang-woo's eye goes wide, shock and raw hunger crashing over him at once. On the table, a pot of bright red kimchi stew bubbles beside neatly arranged side dishes, the steam carrying a smell he has not known for 10,000 years. Seola's mom gently tells him to enjoy the meal, admitting she hopes it suits his taste, and sets the pot pot in front of him. Kang-woo can barely speak as he realizes it is kimchi jjigae, the exact kind of home food he has dreamed about since the day he vanished. Holding the spoon, Kang-woo feels a tear slip down his cheek before he even takes a bite. The weight of 10,000 empty years pressing against this one simple, perfect meal. Kang-woo slowly lifts a spoonful of tofu and red broth, treating that first bite like it is the most precious thing in the world. Seola's mom cheerfully says they should start eating too, but Seola trails off as she stares at the pot, only now grasping that this simple kimchi stew means the world to Kang-woo. Seola watches him with wide eyes, her casual mood fading as she realizes this is not just dinner for him, but a piece of the life he lost. Kang-woo's hand trembles as he raises the spoon, a bead of sweat sliding down his cheek like he is more nervous now than in any battle. He leans over the bowl and starts eating in silence, so focused on the taste that Seola and her mom just watch him, unsure if they should speak or let him have this moment. Kang-woo swallows hard, feeling the hot, familiar flavor slide down and anchor him to the fact that he is really back on Earth. He quickly scoops up another spoonful, the shock fading into pure, greedy enjoyment as he chases the taste he missed for so long. Kang-woo grabs the rice bowl and mixes in a spoonful, finally eating like a man who plans to enjoy every quiet, ordinary bite he was denied for 10,000 years. Kang-woo hunches over the table, shoveling food in like a starving beast, and Seola and her mom just stare, sweat running down their faces as they realize how desperate he really is. His mind jumps back 10,000 years to when he first crashed into hell and sat on a mountain of demon bodies under a burning sky, forced to accept demonic power just to stay alive. Back then, the only food he had were the demons he took down, so he tore into their bodies with shaking hands, stuffing the foul meat into his mouth. Every bite was torture. His human tongue screamed that it tasted worse than garbage, but he forced it down anyway, because there was nothing else. Sometimes his stomach just gave up, and the half-chewed demon flesh and red slime hit the ground as he gagged, knowing he would have to do it all again the next day. After repeating that nightmare for what felt like endless years, he stood there panting, held together by only one tiny desire that refused to die. With his face streaked in tears and red, he begged the empty sky for just one thing: to leave this place and go back to Earth. Snapped back to the warm kitchen, Kang-woo clutches his spoon as tears spill down, whispering that he is really, truly back on Earth. Seola and her mom watch in stunned silence, only now grasping how much this simple meal means to him. Kang-woo lets out a shaky breath, the taste of kimchi stew mixing with his tears as 10,000 years of longing finally ease. Kang-woo bends over his bowl and forces out a shaky thanks, meaning every word. Seola and her mom just stare at him, sweat running down their faces as they realize he is not joking about how much this meal means. Seola presses her lips together for a moment, trying to match his honesty as she thinks about how lonely he must have been. The healer smiles, cheeks pink, and says she is the one who should be thankful, even apologizing that all she could offer was this simple stew and salad. Seeing him eat so happily makes her oddly proud of the plain home cooking. When Sola asks if it is really that tasty, Kang-woo nods with his cheeks still full and, almost embarrassed, asks if he can have another bowl of rice. Seola jumps up at once, saying she will bring more, and her mom smiles, glad to see him eating so well. Kang-woo bows his head again, thanking them like this extra rice is the greatest gift in the world. Holding the warm bowl with both hands, Kang-woo lets the broth wash over his tongue and thinks how glad he is to have finally come back, like his whole life was leading to this one bite. Seola comes back not just with a bowl, but with the entire rice cooker in her arms, smiling as if telling him to eat until he is truly full. Before Kang-woo can reach for more rice, the wall behind him blows apart and a violent shockwave rips through the room, turning his hard-won peaceful meal into sudden chaos. Out of the hole in the wall, a bulky figure walks in through the swirling dust like he just punched his way straight into their home. Seola and her mom stumble to the doorway, coughing as dust pours in, while the guy outside casually complains that their door is weirdly hard to break. The intruder stomps into the room, his heel hitting so hard that the floor tiles split under his weight. The blonde thug throws his head back and roars for Han Sola to get out here, his voice booming through the ruined apartment as dust swirls around him. Han Tae-hyun plants his boot on the broken floor and leans in close, glaring down at Seola as he demands to know who told her she could just walk into a gate on her own. Seola stares back at him, golden eyes burning, holding in her words as her anger slowly builds. Her shoulder trembles, but Seola forces the words out, telling him to get out of their home. Han Tae-hyun's eyes bulge and his jaw tightens, as if he cannot believe this girl just tried to throw him out. Seola jerks forward in her mother's grip and shouts Han Tae-hyun's name, raging at him for barging into their house and ordering him to get out. Breathing hard, Seola warns him to stay back, insisting that she is a full-fledged player now and not someone he can push around. Han Tae-hyun freezes for a beat at her words, his expression twisting as if he is fighting the urge to laugh. Then Tae-hyun bends over laughing, clutching his stomach as he repeats that she is a full-fledged player now, acting like her hard-won growth is nothing but a joke. Han Tae-hyun slams his fist into the wall right next to Seola's head, shards of plaster flying as her mother clings to her. He spits out that a low-level nobody like her has no right to even call herself a player, treating her courage like an insult. Seola shoves her mother behind her and throws out an arm, yelling for Tae-hyun to stop right there. Her voice shakes, but she plants her feet like she'd rather break than move. Tae-hyun tilts his head with a lazy smirk, acting like her warning is cute. Down below, Seola's mother shakes so hard, her teeth almost chatter, too scared to say a word. Han Tae-hyun clicks his tongue and coldly brings up how their father died early and their mother barely earns anything, tossing their hardship out like it proves his point. Seola snaps and yells that he is the crazy one, spitting out that their mess of a life is all because of him. Tae-hyun grabs Seola's wrist and yanks her toward the door, saying they are going to Andros Guild right now, whether she likes it or not. He lets out an amused laugh at being called trash, joking that she is being harsh when he is only trying to hook her up with a good party. Seola locks both arms around his, digging in her heels so he cannot drag her any farther. Seola buries her face against his arm, teeth clenched and eyes burning, hanging on with everything she has, rather than be dragged away. Seola sinks her teeth into Taehyun's arm, hard enough to draw blood, clinging to him like she would rather tear him apart than let him take another step. Taehyun roars and whips his arm sideways, hurling Seola across the room like she is nothing more than baggage in his way. Seola skids across the floor and lands hard, while her mother stumbles toward her with a strangled cry, too scared to even look back at Taehyun. Taehyun grabs his bleeding arm with a twisted grin, glaring down at Seola like she has just crossed a line she can never step back from. Han Tae-hyun leans in with wild eyes, spitting out that nice people get chewed up in this world and that only those willing to be cruel survive. The thug tells Seola to stop fighting and just come along to be used, laughing at her for daring to call herself a real player. Purple energy crawls around Taehyun's body as he coolly suggests they settle it like players, as if turning her terror into some twisted game. Seola's mother drops to her knees in front of Taehyun, promising she will work harder and begging him to leave her daughter out of this nightmare. Seola's mom reaches for Taehyun, begging him one last time, and he answers by smacking her to the floor like trash, grumbling that she is annoying. Seola watches her mother crash and slide across the floor, her stomach dropping as the sound of pain fills the room. Seola's eyes flood with tears as she screams for her mom, the fear in her voice louder than anything Taehyun has said so far. Seola drops to the floor and gathers her mom in her arms, calling out to her in a shaking voice. Behind them, Taehyun just watches and coolly says this would not have happened if her mom had moved when he told her to. Taehyun's face twists with ugly rage, and instead of feeling guilty, he snarls that they dared to bother him. Seola glares at him through her tears and screams his name, no longer just scared, but ready to fight back. Seola hugs her mom's limp body and fixes Taehyun with a burning stare, but he only laughs, asking what she thinks she can do by just looking at him like that. Seola bites back that she is a real player now, but Taehyun just smirks and points out that she is still low level while he has already gone through a second awakening, as if the gap between them is too big to even argue about. Dark power curls around Taehyun as he leans in with a wild grin, asking if she honestly thinks she can stand against him, treating the whole thing like a joke he has already won. Taehyun crushes Seola's face in his hand, spitting out that she is nothing but a pretty doll. Her eyes water from the pain, but also from how cheap he makes her feel. Taehyun keeps lecturing that only by joining Andras will she earn any real respect, trying to sound like some big shot. A long, wet, slurping noise rolls through the room, and his brow twitches as he realizes something is off. The sound does not stop, dragging on and on until Taehyun finally turns his head. His anger cools for a second, replaced by a puzzled frown as he tries to find the source. Across the kitchen, Kangwoo stands by the sink, tilting a whole pot to his mouth and draining the stew like it is the best thing on earth. Taehyun just stares at his back, stunned that someone is calmly eating in the middle of all this. Kangwoo keeps gulping down the stew without a care, cheeks puffed out and eyes shining. Taehyun blurts out a confused curse at the sight, while Seola huddles on the floor behind him, torn between fear and the absurdity of what she is seeing. Kangwoo sits at the table and keeps shoveling food into his mouth, totally focused on the taste. Taehyun plants his hands on his hips and just watches in speechless disbelief, while Seola grips his sleeve from behind, still shaking but clinging to the one thing standing between her and more pain. Taehyun glances down and Seola flinches, one hand at her throat as if expecting another hit. Instead, the blonde man steps past her and leans over the table, snapping at Kangwoo and calling him a brat. But the black-haired glutton just keeps eating, cheeks full and eyes half closed in pure joy. Rubbing the back of his neck, Taehyun glares at Kangwoo, who still treats the stew like it is the only thing that matters. Then his rage boils over, and he roars an insult as he hurls a blast of power across the kitchen, sending bowls and red broth flying toward Kangwoo in a violent arc. Kangwoo freezes as the red stew whips past his face, drops of soup clinging to his lips. For a second, he is too stunned to move, more shocked that the food is under attack than his own body. Han Seola watches the stew explode through the air and clamps a hand over her mouth, eyes filling again. She is sure Taehyun has finally snapped and gone too far. Han Taehyun leans in with his teeth bared, shouting like he wants to crush both of them and the whole kitchen along with them. He is too angry to notice how insane he looks. Stew rains down around Kangwoo as the pot crashes to the floor, but he just sits there, chopsticks frozen halfway to his mouth. Han Seola screams his name, sure he has been caught in the blast along with the food. Then Kangwoo snaps. His eyes bulge, veins standing out as he lets out a raw scream about his kimchi stew, sounding more broken over the wasted food than any danger to himself. Kangwoo drops to his hands and knees in the spilled stew, wailing like the world just ended as the red broth spreads under him. Han Taehyun watches from behind, sweat running down his neck as he mutters that there is something seriously wrong with this guy. Han Seola just stares, tears still sliding down her cheeks, but her eyes are empty with shock. She cannot decide what is crazier anymore, Taehyun's temper or Kangwoo crying over spilled stew. Kangwoo keeps bawling, shoulders shaking so hard that a strange pressure seems to leak out of him with every sob. Han Taehyun looks down at him in disgust, asking Seola where she even picked up a beggar like this, and spitting the words like an insult. Han Taehyun plants his foot on Kangwoo's back, ordering him to stop acting pathetic and stand up. Kangwoo just keeps sniffling in the spilled stew under him. Then Kangwoo lifts his head, and his eye burns red as he locks onto Taehyun. All that crying vanishes, replaced by a cold, sharp rage aimed at the one who ruined his food. Han Taehyun stares down, sweating, unable to understand how a crying loser suddenly feels this terrifying. A towering wave of purple darkness rises from Kangwoo, so twisted that Taehyun can only think of one word for him: a demon. Wrapped in that swirling purple haze, Kangwoo crouches above Taehyun, like a beast ready to pounce, his voice low and shaking with fury as he asks if this guy really dared to spill his kimchi stew. Taehyun can only stare up at him, frozen, as the floor itself seems to churn under that power. Han Taehyun staggers back as that purple darkness crawls up around Kangwoo, his hand half raised like he might still try to fight. He can only stare and stammer about Kangwoo's kimchi stew, finally grasping that this is not just some weak beggar. The blonde man grits his teeth, sweat running down his cheek as he crushes his fear. Blue power crackles around his tightening fist, and he decides he'll just smash this problem head on. Blue flames roar from Taehyun's arm as he hurls his punch down at Kangwoo, turning the small kitchen into a storm. Chairs, plates, and what is left of the stew blast away under the shock. Staring at the blue fire wrapped around his hand, Taehyun pants and tells himself he must have imagined that terror. He laughs it off and spits out that Kangwoo is just a crazy beggar who needs to be put in his place. Before he can enjoy the insult, the blue flames whip back over Taehyun's face, bursting like a wave right in front of him. His body jerks as the force he trusted suddenly slams into him instead. Taehyun's eye goes wide, blue light swirling in his pupil as he tries to understand how his own power just betrayed him. All he can think is that nothing about this fight makes sense anymore. Han Seola swings her staff up and screams for Kangwoo to run, even as a rough hand clamps down on her arm. Tears spill from her golden eyes, but she still thinks more about getting him out than saving herself. Kangwoo bolts forward like a shadow torn loose, purple energy ripping the air behind him as he aims straight for Taehyun's chest. Seola's plea to run is already forgotten. He only cares about tearing apart the man who dared to waste his kimchi stew. Seola clutches her staff with shaking hands, golden eyes wet as she stares at Kangwoo, torn between terror and the tiny hope that he might actually win. Taehyun roars Kangwoo's name and hurls himself forward, blue fire pouring from his arm like a cannon as he tries to blow the charging man away. Taehyun's face twists with rage as he tells himself Kangwoo is not even that fast, certain he can still crush him with one clean hit. The blonde fighter snaps his gaze to the side, shouting that the strike is coming from the left as he swings his burning arm to meet it. Kangwoo's eye burns crimson as he drives in, fist tight, his body cutting through the red haze on a path that is nothing like the one Taehyun guessed. Taehyun realized too late that the left strike was a trick, and Kangwoo's kick crashes into his gut, twisting his body as blue power scatters uselessly around them. Taehyun doubles over, spit flying from his mouth as he spits out a curse at Kangwoo, stunned that this so-called beggar just made a fool out of him. Still cursing, Taehyun throws himself at Kangwoo with blue fire swirling around his arm, sure that raw power will fix everything. Kangwoo barely moves, letting the swing pass before driving a heavy punch into Taehyun's side from behind, dropping him mid-charge. Taehyun's nose runs red as he glares up, trying to tell himself Kangwoo is not that strong. Their bodies crash together again, blue fire spilling from Taehyun's arm, while Kangwoo drives in with another brutal kick. Kangwoo's fist comes down like a hammer, smashing through Taehyun's guard and folding him toward the floor as the blonde man lets out a strangled cry. Taehyun whips a burning strike at his back, but Kangwoo twists aside, his wrapped leg cutting a bright arc as he sets up the next blow. Furious and bleeding, Taehyun hurls power at him in a blind rush, but Kangwoo slips under the glow and drives a sharp kick into his ribs, sending his flames spraying off target. Kangwoo's fist slams in again, red sparks bursting from the impact as Taehyun's body jerks from the force. On his hands and knees, Taehyun wheezes and realizes he fell for another trick, staring up at Kangwoo's shadowy form as dark energy writhes around the man like living smoke. Kangwoo climbs on top of him and yanks him down by the collar, pressing the blonde man into the brutal floor as Taehyun's limbs twitch weakly. A moment later, Kangwoo rises and grinds his bandaged foot onto Taehyun's head, pinning his face to the floor and leaving no doubt about who owns this fight now. Kangwoo leans more weight onto Taehyun's head, grinding his foot down until the blonde man howls, making it clear this beating is far from over. The Demon King slams his fist into Taehyun's ribs and coldly tells him to stop whining and take it like a man. Kangwoo's red eyes burn hotter as he growls growls that Taehyun is nowhere near done, paying for daring to spill his precious kimchi stew. Shaking and bleeding, Taehyun stares up and yells that it makes no sense for Kangwoo to go this far over what he calls a stupid bowl of kimchi jjigae. The word stupid echoes in Kangwoo's head, and his eyes widen as if Taehyun has just crossed the one line he should never have touched. Clutching Taehyun's hair, Kangwoo drags his face close and snarls, asking if Taehyun really just called kimchi jjigae a stupid bull, while the air twists with red-black power. With Kangwoo's grip digging into his scalp, Taehyun trembles and hurriedly tries to say he did not mean it, his voice breaking as he searches for a way out. Kangwoo snaps and drives Taehyun's head into the floor again and again, roaring about how dare he call kimchi jjigae stupid as dark energy surges like a storm around them. Kangwoo grits his teeth, forcing his anger into something sharp and focused instead of wild. The Demon King lightly taps Taehyun's head as if waking someone up and calmly calls out to him, with his face almost touching Taehyun's. Kangwoo explains that when he shouts the first number, Taehyun will answer by naming kimchi jjigae at the top of his lungs. As Taehyun's fingers shake in the spilled stew, Kangwoo calmly adds that on the second number, Taehyun will yell that kimchi jjigae is sacred food, making it clear this is exactly what he expects to hear. When Kangwoo calls the first number, Taehyun chokes out the words kimchi jjigae, barely getting them past the blood in his mouth. Kangwoo stomps down on Taehyun's hand until the blonde man lets out a raw scream, then coolly repeats the first number, demanding he say it again, louder. Sobbing and bleeding, Taehyun finally screams out kimchi jjigae like Kangwoo wanted, only to hear the second number fall coldly from above him. Surrounded by swirling purple darkness, Kangwoo slowly calls out the second number, and Taehyun, staring up at that inhuman glow, stammers that kimchi jjigae is a sacred existence just to survive another second. Kangwoo leans in with those burning red eyes and snarls that Taehyun has to shout louder, like a true believer begging their god for mercy. With Taehyun crushed under him and the floor smeared with stew, Kangwoo orders him to cry out that name like a worshiper on their knees, pouring every bit of fear and faith into it. Sola's shoulders jump at his words, her body stiff as she listens to Kangwoo twist a simple dish into something that sounds like a love confession and a prayer at the same time. She stares ahead, lips parted but saying nothing, caught between fear of Kangwoo's madness and relief that the monster who hurt her is finally the one begging. Kangwoo roars at him to shout with his whole heart that kimchi stew is holy, and Taehyun, bawling and bleeding, screams the words back as if his life hangs on every syllable. Kangwoo grinds his teeth, clearly unimpressed, and mutters that this still is not the tone he wants. Wrapped in a storm of purple energy, Kangwoo hauls Taehyun close and barks that the tone is all wrong, ordering him to scream so high and loud it sounds like his voice might snap. Taehyun sucks in a shaky breath, then lets out a shrill, cracking scream, yelling that kimchi is a sacred existence with everything he has left, just praying Kangwoo will finally stop. Kangwoo calmly drives his hand into Taehyun's side, and warm blood runs over his fingers as Taehyun's body jerks in shock. He stands up over Taehyun's crumpled body, muscles tense and dark energy rolling off him, like a judge who has already decided the sentence. Kangwoo's red eyes narrow, and he warns in a low, cold voice that anyone who dares look down on kimchi stew again will end up just like this. Taehyun lies there shaking, tears mixing with the blood by his mouth, as he wonders what kind of lunatic would do all this over a bowl of stew. An older woman lay weak on the bed, while careful hands changed the bandage on her head, every small move showing how fragile she had become. Seola watched with tight lips and tired eyes, wishing her healing powers could fix more than just wounds made by monsters. The small house felt calm as Seola sat by the resting woman, while in the kitchen, someone filled a pot at the sink, getting ready to cook like this was just another day. Taehyun's jaw tightened, a thin line of blood at his lip, as he swallowed his anger and kept working. Standing at the stove in borrowed shorts, Taehyun cursed his luck, thinking how meeting this lunatic had led to a brutal beating and even losing his own clothes, while the so-called Demon King just lounged behind him like nothing had happened. Kangwoo took an easy sip from his cup and checked his phone, acting like this was a peaceful coffee break instead of the the aftermath of a beating over stew. Tears streamed down Taehyun's battered face as he clutched the pot, cursing the kimchi-obsessed maniac in his head, even while he followed the order to cook. As the water crashed into the pot, Taehyun glared at his twisted reflection and groaned that his broken body, stolen pride, and this forced cooking shift were all because of one stupid bowl of kimchi stew. Taehyun's eye shook with anger and shame as he wondered why he had to suffer this much over one bowl of stew. The cup hit the table with a sharp thud, and Taehyun jolted like someone had swung a fist at his back. Kangwoo casually pointed out how anyone would be upset after a beating over kimchi stew, and Taehyun screamed back that he was totally fine. Even as his voice cracked, Kangwoo's red eye narrowed, and the lazy act slipped for a moment, showing a tired anger that had nothing to do with Taehyun. As Taehyun watched, Kangwoo spoke about eating, sleeping, and even breathing in comfort, while his mind replayed years of tearing into monsters just to survive in a place that felt like it wanted him gone. He remembered chewing through foul flesh, with purple power burning his throat, certain that someone who grew up on warm beds and real food would never truly grasp that kind of life. Back on the couch, Kangwoo told him to treat his life like it mattered, because having a roof, clothes, and real meals was a gift people in hell would have traded anything for. Taehyun shouted that he got it, acting like an obedient student, but inside, he cursed the smug demon king and swore he'd get even someday. Taehyun glared through his swollen eye and tried to sound tough, warning that once he reported this to Andras, Kangwoo would be done for. Kangwoo told him to come over once the dishes were done, and Taehyun yelped out a shaky answer, rushing to finish like his life depended on it. Kangwoo rested his hand on the broken table, mulling something over as the wood creaked under his grip. Taehyun's eyes shook as it hit him that Kangwoo's idea had nothing to do with mercy. The Demon King grabbed Taehyun by the collar and yanked him in, cutting off any thought of running. Kangwoo leaned close, eyes blazing violet, and calmly told Taehyun he would not take his life, then added that what came next would make that sound like the kinder choice. A crushing darkness poured over Taehyun's body, making his hand shake as he gasped and demanded to know what was happening to him. In Taehyun's mind, a towering purple demon with burning eyes rose up, the power of dread that Kangwoo had taken from Lorabast, and its very presence crushed him under a fear so deep he could barely stand. Taehyun clawed at the massive purple fingers around him, sobbing and begging the demon to spare him as pure panic took over. The horned demon pushed its snout right up to him, those burning eyes locking on Taehyun as he screamed for it to back off. Taehyun stared up at the huge, bloodshot eye hanging over him, shadowy hands digging into his back as he cried that he could not go out like this. Finally realizing he was in the grip of the demon Ouroboros, the kitchen snapped back into place, but Taehyun was left shaking on the tiles. Eyes rolled white as Kangwoo coolly went over the power of dread, a skill that snatches a piece of the target's soul, brands them with fear that never fades, and seals their tongue about what happened here. Kangwoo let his hand flick in a lazy shooing motion, telling his new puppet to get out of his sight. Kangwoo let out a long breath and slumped back in the chair, casually cursing Taehyun as a pathetic loser, while the blonde man stumbled away in soaked shorts, mumbling the same broken word over and over. Taehyun rushed out of the apartment in a panic, while Kangwoo sat at the table scrolling through his phone, leaving Seola on the couch, staring after the fleeing man, unsure what she had just watched. Seola's golden eyes stayed fixed on Kangwoo, a mix of awe and unease rising in her chest as she tried to process just how calmly he had broken that man. Kangwoo rubbed his cheek with his gloved hand and let out a short sigh, realizing he had ended up saving Seola yet again. He pushed the thought aside and began tapping on his phone, searching for something useful. The image of Taehyun's shaken face flashed in his mind, and Kangwoo frowned, feeling that something about this whole mess still bothered him. His red eye sharpened as a simple but important idea clicked into place. He scrolled through a page about magic stones, learning that these crystal cores from monsters held magic power and were worth more the darker their color, already thinking about how he could use them. Kangwoo turned towards Seola and asked her to show him the magic stone she had on her, and the healer jumped up, answering that she would grab it right away. Saola knelt by her bag and rummaged through it, smiling softly as she said she would take it out in a second. She placed a bright blue crystal in Kang Woo's gloved palm, explaining that it was the E-rank magic stone they had taken from the goblin before. Kang Woo let demonic power curl around the blue crystal, judging its color and weight. He frowned a little, not feeling any of his kind of energy inside it. Saola watched him with a puzzled look, wondering what he had just found out. His red eyes narrowed as he studied the flow inside the crystal, and he was sure now that the power sealed there was not demonic at all. He remembered the last time he had gone all out, purple energy roaring around his body as the system calmly reported that his demonic energy had gone up by 1 point. In his head, he pictured his demonic power bulking up thanks to these crystals, only for that hope to flop over and die when he realized the stones held something else entirely. Kang Woo rolled the sharp crystal between his fingers, watching a faint light leak out as he tried to pin down what kind of power was really sealed inside. He finally sorted it out in his mind. These stones were packed with a different force, the thing people here called magic, not with the demonic energy he was hunting for. Turning the crystal in his hand, Kang Woo rubbed his neck and wondered where demonic energy on this world was supposed to come from, if not from these stones. Kang Woo handed the crystal back with a light smile, thanking Saola and saying he was done checking it for now, then added that they should just sell the stones and make some money while he figured the rest out later. Kang Woo remembered the armed squad that had dragged him out of the gate and knew he needed to play things smart if he wanted to move up in this new system. He asked Saola if there was a player support center nearby where he could handle the formal stuff. Saola explained that there was no branch nearby, but the main office by Seoul Station handled everything. Hearing that, Kang Woo said he also had business there and casually suggested they head over together. Saola admitted that jumping into the gate earlier had been way beyond what she could handle, and that she had only done it because her family was struggling for money. Thinking of her sick mother in the hospital, she called her choice stupid and reckless, even if the need had felt real at the time. Saola smiled, saying that thanks to him, she had learned her lesson and wanted to thank him properly for stepping in. Kang Woo just laughed it off, acting like what he had done was no big deal at all. Saola clenched her fist and said she wanted to become someone who could help others the way Kang Woo had helped her, seeing him as almost angelic after everything she had been through. Kang Woo smiled to himself, thinking that learning the basics at the support center and pushing for his second awakening would be the first real step toward getting his old strength back. Kang Woo smiled kindly at Saola as she thanked him, acting like a supportive partner. Inside, the Demon King had already decided he would not step in to help her any more than he had to. With an easy smile, Kang Woo suggested they head out together, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Saola happily agreed and rushed off to get ready. As Saola hurried into her room to change, Kang Woo watched her go and did the math in his head. He knew that if he kept dragging her around, his hunting speed would drop hard. His mouth tightened as he admitted that it sounded cruel even to him, but he could not deny it. Cold or not, it was simply the truth. While Saola cheerfully picked out clothes, Kang Woo hardened his resolve. He told himself he had to shut out anything that could hold back his abilities and pour everything into getting his power back. Standing by the window, Kang Woo thought about the 10,000 years he had spent before finally coming back to Earth. This world felt peaceful on the surface, but he knew he had to climb back up in strength if he wanted to keep living here on his own terms. Saola called out to Kang Woo from behind, snapping him out of his heavy thoughts and asking if he had brought his ID. He blinked and turned from the window, dragged back from 10,000 years of memories to the simple hassle of paperwork. Kang Woo turned the new card in his hand, staring at his own face and name printed like he was just another normal citizen of Seoul. On the subway, Kang Woo and the healer stood shoulder to shoulder with strangers, swaying with the train as if this cramped metal box was the most natural place in the world for a former demon king. He lifted the card toward the light, quietly mulling over the fact that his citizen registration had been reissued after all this time. At the counter, the clerk told Kang Woo everything was wrapped up and asked if he needed anything else, and he just thanked her with an easy smile. Inside, he was stunned that not a single missing person report had ever been filed for him. As the train rattled along, Kang-woo stared at the card and admitted to himself that no one had even noticed he was gone. His thumb slid over the tiny photo, and he thought about how many years had slipped by while this name and face meant nothing to anyone. Old memories rose up of him eating in packed places where no one knew his name, then hunched over instant noodles in a tiny room, living a life where he was always there but never really seen. That quiet neglect twisted into something darker in hell, where Kang-woo tore through demon after demon just to keep going, driven by the bitter thought that there had never been a single person who truly cared whether he existed or not. Kang-woo's eye twitched, the red slit sharpening as a voice dragged him out of the memories he had been drowning in. The healer smiled up at him and told Kang-woo to look out the window, gently pushing him to stop staring at the card and start paying attention to where they were heading. Kang-woo lifted his head, fingers tightening around the card as he noted that their stop was coming up, and tried to steady the strange mix of nerves and excitement building in his chest. Outside, a massive white building curved up from the city like some kind of spaceship, packed streets and glass towers shining around it, and Kang-woo finally saw the place that would decide his new life as a player. The healer stepped closer to the window, saying how much she liked the view from here, her voice full of simple wonder that made the crowded train feel a little brighter. Kang-woo slid the card into his pocket, starting to say something but trailing off as he realized he did not even know how to describe the weight this new start carried for him. As the train rushed past the tall buildings, Kang-woo finally said that things would be different from now on, and that the thought of starting over like this was honestly amazing, even to someone who had ruled hell. The train slowed beside the platform of the Player Support Center station, and with that soft jolt of arrival, Kang-woo's new life as an official player was about to begin for real. The train doors opened into a bright station, and the crowd flowed toward the Player Support Center exit on the left, carrying Kang-woo straight into his new world. Under the clear glass roof, the healer called Kang-woo over, and he answered quickly, hurrying to catch up to her. They stepped into a wide plaza, and the head office of the Player Support Center rose over them like a giant glass wave, leaving even someone who had ruled hell quietly impressed. As Kang-woo stared up at the huge building, the healer joked about how big it was, and then said she had something to give him, snapping him out of his daze. The healer held out her old phone, pressing it into his hand so he would have a way to contact her once they went their separate ways inside. Kang-woo clutched the phone like treasure, cheeks warming as he thought that only an angel would hand something like this to a guy who had nothing and even promise he could use the center's Wi-Fi to reach her. In the crowded lobby, the healer said she needed to go register for the basic lecture, and Kang-woo nodded, saying he would take care of his own registration and contact her later with the phone she had given him. The healer smiled and said she might run a bit late, but told him they should have dinner together afterward, leaving Kang-woo with the promise of a normal, happy evening waiting at the end of this first step. Kang-woo could not stop smiling. After 10,000 years of nothing, the promise of dinner with her felt like winning the lottery. He walked into the Player Support Center and stared up at the glass roof, amazed by how huge and busy the place was. Nearby, a healer joked with a tank about work, and their easy talk made it clear that players now carried a huge part of the world on their shoulders. Kang-woo spotted the sleek kiosk and headed over, guessing this was where he had to slide his new ID to get in line. He pushed the card into the slot, watching the light blink as the machine started to process his freshly made identity. The system flashed his face and name, confirmed that Kang-woo existed on paper again, and spat out a thin ticket marked with the number 18. Kang-woo picked up the ticket and swallowed hard. With this small strip of paper, the test that would decide his new life was suddenly right in front of him. He pressed the ticket against his chest for a moment, took a slow breath, and then started toward the testing room. A bright path of light spread out from the kiosk, telling Kang-woo exactly where to go. He tightened his grip on the ticket and started walking toward the testing room, feeling the weight of each step. The path ended at a long hall marked as a testing room, already filled with nervous hopefuls. Kang-woo took a seat among them, ticket in hand, blending in like just another rookie waiting to be judged. Two applicants nearby chatted about their first test, with the older one proudly sharing that he had reached D rank. His friend praised him, treating that result like something worth showing off. The gray-haired man joked about his buddy shooting for at least a B rank on his next try, laughing like it was all just friendly competition. Around them, Kangwoo sat quietly, taking in how natural this talk about power had become for everyone. Hearing them talk about people who were just born different, Kangwoo pulled out his phone and started typing fast. He wanted to see for himself what counted as a true top player on this planet. The search results spelled it out clearly. The so-called Big Five Guild Masters had all hit S rank on their very first awakening. In this world, they sat on a level so high that normal players could only dream about it. Kangwoo read that anyone who reached S rank could even get scouted by those giant guilds. He told himself not to expect much from his first few tests, but the idea of climbing high enough to play with the real powers of this world lodged itself in his mind. Names of giants filled his screen. Mir's Kim Jae-hyun, Red Rose's Cha Yeonju, Hanul's Baek Kang-yoon, Sanarai's Jung Hyung-ju, and Onuri's Cha Min-hyuk. Their shadows seemed to loom over the tiny rookie sitting with ticket 18, but Kangwoo just studied them calmly, treating the strongest people on Earth as nothing more than future targets to surpass. Kangwoo stared ahead, already picturing the top guild masters standing in front of him. Once he got his full strength back, he knew their paths would cross sooner or later. He checked the floating screen over his phone and admitted to himself that strong people never stayed in the background for long. With how this world worked, running into those rankers felt less like a dream and more like a matter of time. The light around him dimmed, but his eyes burned brighter. He decided he had to claw back his full power as fast as the system would let him. The system laid out his details. Oh Kangwoo, level 4, first awakening, holder of the power of glutton, most of it locked away until he climbed higher. Studying the note about a new ability at level 10, he wondered if this path could push him past even the monster he used to be. The waiting room hummed softly as a bright doorway flared to life, spilling pale mist across the floor. Kangwoo sat with his ticket in hand, watching the entrance open like the start of a game he already planned to beat. He rose without hesitation, his boot cutting through the mist as he headed for the doorway. Inside the bright control hall, a worker with a tablet stopped him and pointed toward a row of seats near the center platform. Kangwoo followed her directions, blending into the flow of players moving through the facility. In a quieter room filled with glowing charts, a tester glanced between her screen and the young man in front of her, asking if he was Oh Kangwoo. He nodded, and with that simple answer, his official test finally began. The tester lifted a smooth white orb and told Kangwoo to place his hand on it so they could measure his power. As the tester explained that darker colors meant stronger powers, Kangwoo laid his hand on the orb and secretly panicked, wondering what would happen if his strength showed up too high. The orb hummed under his fingers as it began to drink in the power he was leaking on purpose. Light blasted out from the orb, washing over the room so hard that both Kangwoo and the tester were swallowed in a storm of blue glow. Kangwoo let out a tired breath, grumbling to himself that he might have overdone it even while holding back. Across the table, the tester just stared through the glare, her mind clearly trying to process what she was seeing. When the glow finally died down, the tester sat in silence for a moment, her eyes fixed on Kangwoo as she weighed how to label what the orb had just shown. The tester finally spoke and told Oh Kangwoo that, according to the reading, he was only F rank, leaving him glowing softly like some harmless newbie. Kangwoo froze, staring at the orb in disbelief at being tagged F rank, and the tester casually told him he could lift his hand as if nothing strange had happened at all. Before all this testing and ranking nonsense, he was the monster who clawed his way through hell for 10,000 years and then walked back into the world like it was nothing. The tester stayed professional and told Kangwoo she'd walk him through the important stuff he needed to remember as a new player. Kangwoo replayed her words about low-ranked abilities, and even knowing most of his power was sealed, he still could not believe the system had shoved him all the way down to F rank. The tester explained that he'd start with an E rank player card and could only enter gates that matched it, and anything higher would need a stronger guardian to babysit him. Kangwoo wondered if the orb just could not handle handle a power like his, and, in his head, pictured Balrog losing it over someone saying the Demon King needed protection. A dull ache from those 10,000 years in hell pressed down on Kang Wu again, and he rubbed his forehead, wondering what he had to do in this new system to raise his pathetic rank. In a basic course, an instructor explained that just finishing the training would bump any rookie straight up to D rank, and that turning in records of magic stone trades could push their rank even higher. Hearing that, Kang Wu eyed a crystal shard in his hand and decided that method suited him just fine. Kang Wu nodded that he understood and watched as the tester's laptop spat out his new E-rank profile. When she gently offered to sign him up for the basic course, he brushed it off, and she glanced at his blank face, thinking he was still reeling from how low his rank was. After Kang Wu left, the tester let out a slow breath, thinking a kid that weak would get wiped out the moment he stepped into a gate and might be better off quitting now. As she reached for the orb, she froze, staring at the strange, inky color swirling inside it that should not have been there at all. The tester watched the crystal orb go wild, dark smoke swirling as if it were burning from the inside, and she panicked, wondering if the thing had just broken while reading that kid. She muttered that even Baek Kong-kyun, a S-rank legend, had only turned the orb dark gray, then hurriedly called an attendant, insisting they swap the crystal, because there was no way a rookie like that had turned it pitch black. Out by a city gate, the air buzzed as players shouted over each other in front of a swirling blue portal, yelling for dealers and mages to fill their parties before heading inside. Parties called out for healers and tankers, happily scooping up anyone alone. But every time the bandit class kid raised his hand, they brushed him off like dead weight, leaving Kang Wu watching from the side and wondering why that class was treated like a curse. Kang Wu calmly handed over his player card, and after the guard checked the E rank mark and said it was fine, he waved Kang Wu through without asking anything else. The portal wrapped around him in a rush of blue light, and when it spat him out onto soft grass under bright trees, Kang Wu knew he had made it into the gate without any trouble. He pushed himself up with a groan, relieved this place was a quiet forest and not another layer of hell, grumbling to himself about how much he hated the warped feeling of teleporting as he decided to start hunting monsters, when a sharp shout from behind stopped him mid-step. A huge, bear-sized man with glowing eyes blocked out the light as he leaned over Kang Wu and greeted him, and Kang Wu stared up at the wall of muscle, wondering if he had just run into an actual bear in human skin. The huge player squinted down at Kang Wu, surprised this kid had come in here by himself. When Kang Wu calmly admitted he was solo, the man guessed he was trying to clear the gate alone and started checking if he had even gone through a second awakening yet. A mage from the nearby party called out that everything was ready, only to overhear Kang Wu admit he had never even reached his second awakening. She and the rogue beside her stared at him, shocked that someone that raw had walked into a gate alone. Tae-soo guessed Kang Wu had skipped the basic course and started lecturing that an E rank was better off in a group than wandering around alone. He cheerfully offered to let Kang Wu try running with their party, even as the mage and rogue yelled that he was deciding things on his own and that a newbie like this would just drag them down. Tae-soo exploded at his teammates, reminding them how risky it was for a fresh E rank to wander this place alone, and saying they would basically be saving the kid's life. To shut down their worries, he even promised to skip his cut of the magic stones, then loudly pushed to add Kang Wu to their party. Kang Wu watched him and had to admit the big guy seemed like a decent person, at least as long as he did not get in the way. He turned down the offer, saying he would still hunt alone, but Tae-soo just grinned, got the other's grudging agreement, and stuck out his hand, introducing himself as Kang Tae-soo. The big warrior asked for his name, and Kang Wu calmly introduced himself again, while making it clear he still was not planning to join their party. Tae-soo only laughed, told him to drop the formal talk, and casually revealed he was 24, which made Kang Wu stare at his rugged face in disbelief. The maid shouted that he had to be lying, so Tae-soo proudly whipped out his ID, showing he really was born in 1999. Kang Wu looked between the card and that weathered face, wondering what kind of life could age someone like this in just a few years, then decided to relax and speak to him more casually. Kang Wu handed the card back and thanked Tae-soo for going so far for him, but he did not budge. He told the older player he had entered this gate with a clear plan and would be sticking to it, even if that meant hunting alone. Tae-soo finally backs off from trying to recruit him, but he still warns that this whole area belongs to goblins and that a huge boss called a hobgoblin roams among them, the kind of monster you only survive by running from. The hobgoblin he describes is a hulking beast wrapped in dark smoke, a boss far beyond normal goblins that any sane E rank should flee. On sight, Kang-woo just smiles, thinking Tae-soo really is a kind guy, and thanks him for the warning. Tae-soo leads his party back into the trees, calling for Kang-woo to stay safe as they go. Watching their backs fade into the green, Kang-woo admits to himself that if he were really some weak F-rank rookie, he probably would have tagged along. He tightens his glove with a small, confident grin, deciding that with his real power, he is far better off on his own. Sunlight pours over the forest canopy as he shifts his focus from people to the hunt ahead. With his mind made up, Kang-woo heads down the dirt path between the trees, stepping lightly as he starts his own hunt. In the next heartbeat, he kicks off hard, the path blurring past, and leaves whipping up as he rushes deeper into the woods. Pushing through the undergrowth, he spots churned up dirt and a mangled corpse, clear proof that goblins have been busy here. The tracks are thick and fresh, and he follows them calmly, sure their nest is close. From the shade of a thick branch, he looks down on a full goblin village, green bodies milling between crude huts, and knows he has found exactly what he was looking for. Kang-woo steps off the cliff and drops straight into the heart of the goblin village, grinning that he has finally found their nest. The goblins and their hulking hobgoblin leader stare up at him in shock, having no idea that he came here to wipe them all out. Before the goblins can even understand what dropped into their nest, the true monster among them is already moving, the player who clawed his way back from 10,000 years in hell. Kang-woo flashes past the nearest goblin, his hand slicing through it as he laughs that he has found exactly what he was hoping for. He tears through the village like a blue streak, leaving stunned goblins scrambling just to follow where he went. Dark energy and blood rain down around a lone goblin as the hunter above grins, thinking this many monsters will feed his growth for a long time. The goblins clutch their weapons, sweat running down their twisted faces as a bad feeling crawls up their backs. Below them, Kang-woo lifts a jet black arm and cheerfully declares that it is time to start for real. His blackened arm carves through the air, and a single sweeping strike tears straight through the goblins in front of him, dropping them before they can even scream. Moments like this are why people will later whisper about the player who returned after 10,000 years, turning whole nests into nothing but memories. Kang-woo steps into the next wave, blade and black energy flashing as he cuts through the charging goblins like they are nothing more than walking experience points. Kang-woo shoots straight into the pack, his arm drawing bright arcs as goblins drop before they even finish screaming. To them, it looks wild and messy, but every step he takes is planned to clear the most enemies with the least effort. He shifts from slashing to a straight punch, driving his fist into the chest of a larger goblin and hurling it back like a rag doll. The smaller ones rush him from all sides, but they are only lining up to be taken down next. The fighter twists his body and lets his arm whip out in a full circle, blue light stretching from his hand like a blade. The swing carves through the ring of goblins around him, turning their rush into a collapsing wall. His eyes glow red as he drives straight through another group, enjoying how easy their bodies give way. One goblin tries to stand its ground and raise a club, but it is already too late for it to matter. The goblin throws its head back and charges, swinging with all the courage it can muster. A streak of force rips across its body, and that tiny burst of bravery ends in an instant. Another goblin throws its weight forward, gripping its weapon so hard its knuckles pale. The strike from the human catches it mid-step, turning its own charge into the force that tears it open. Kang-woo buries his fist in a goblin's gut and keeps moving, using its body as a shield against the ones behind it. To him, this crowd is not a threat, just a moving bag of points and power waiting to be claimed. Purple demonic energy pours off Kang Woo's body as he finally stops playing nice. With one sharp swing, that power explodes outward, ready to erase every goblin still foolish enough to stand near him. Kang Woo lets the purple power burst from his arm, and the last goblins are torn apart before they can even run. For him, it feels less like a fight and more like clearing trash out of his way. The remaining goblins stumble back, clutching their weapons and trying to count how many of their own are already on the ground. Above them, Kang Woo hangs in the air with blood dripping from his leg, almost bored that there are still this many left. Kang Woo grins, treating the crowd of monsters like a free buffet for his ability. He tightens his brutal fist as purple energy swirls around it, ready to squeeze even more power out of their bodies. His fingers uncurl, and he lets out a slow breath, the rush of power fading from his hand. Kang Woo wipes his forehead and stares over the field, packed with fallen goblins. He admits to himself that even for him, cutting through this many at once takes a bit of work. As he relaxes, a purple window pops up beside him, pulling his attention away from the bodies at his feet. The system lists out his rewards, from wiping out the E-rank goblins to jumping 4 whole levels and gaining more demonic energy. Kang Woo studies the numbers and realizes he can grow that dark power just by climbing the system like everyone else. First, Kang Woo grips a goblin's body, now sure that the demonic energy he wants is not hiding in their magic stones. Dark aura curls up around him as he gets ready to pull that power out the old-fashioned way. Kang Woo lets the power of gluttony roar to life, a huge purple maw rising over the pile of bodies. The energy around him tenses, like it is trying to swallow the whole field. The Demon King closes his eyes for a moment and focuses, feeling a dark current brush against his skin. In front of him, purple wisps peel off the torn goblins and float up like ghostly flames as he tracks the source of that power. Kang Woo presses his hand into a goblin's chest and feels the energy spread through its whole body, not just the stone. He notices the weaker flow from older corpses and realizes fresh kills give him more to eat. A window pops up showing his demonic energy jumping by 2 points, and he grins, already planning how to abuse this. With that one test, Kang Woo realizes every monster is now both cash and fuel. He steps over the stripped bones, eyeing the blue stones on the ground and deciding he just needs to scoop them up before heading out. As he plucks magic stones out from between bare bones, Kang Woo starts doing the math on how many whole chickens this haul will buy. The way he is picking the bodies clean even reminds him of stripping meat off the bone, and his mind drifts straight to crispy fried pieces and a quiet meal with Sayola once he gets out. In his head, Sayola smiles softly and holds out a golden drumstick just for him, and the picture almost makes him drool. Fired up by that silly dream, Kang Woo bolts across the clearing with his sack of stones, promising himself he will buy her a huge plate of half-saucy, half-fried chicken with extra pickled radish. Right as he is rushing forward, Kang Woo freezes and turns, the playful mood dropping as a sharp sound from the trees cuts through his thoughts of chicken. Kang Woo lifts his head, eyes narrowing with puzzled focus, wondering what just showed up inside this gate now that the goblins are gone. Kang Woo follows the noise and spots a bigger, meaner goblin rushing him. He remembers what Tae-Soo said and realizes this must be the hobgoblin, the real threat hiding behind the small fry. The hobgoblin glares at him, eyes burning like hot metal as it growls low, making it clear it wants him gone. The hobgoblin's growl keeps rolling out, a rough sound that makes the quiet forest feel tight and small. The growl turns into a roar as the hobgoblin swells with power, blue light crawling over its body, while Kang Woo watches from the bone-strewn ground. Kang Woo's eyes widen as he notices the blue aura and understands the hobgoblin is using magic, something an E-rank boss should not be doing. The powered-up brute lunges at him, the ground shaking under its rush. A bright banner pops up asking for Korean translators to join their group, which has nothing to do with Kang Woo or the hobgoblin. Years in hell turned Kang Woo into a monster among monsters, but now he is back on Earth, starting from the bottom like just another player. The hobgoblin barrels in, its axe glowing blue, and Kang Woo is stunned that this thing actually knows how to use magic. Kang Woo lets demonic energy crawl over his arm and blade, testing the feel of that magic power coming off the hobgoblin. He studies the blue glow and figures that if it comes down to pure destructive force, this magic is nothing he cannot cannot match. Kang-woo knows his demonic energy outclasses the hobgoblin's magic, yet with his stats still low, taking that kind of hit head-on could wreck him. The hobgoblin's magic-charged swing rips open the ground, and Kang-woo slips out of range, seeing that even a graze from that attack would be nasty. The boss does not slow down, hurling another wave of blue force as Kang-woo grits his teeth and brings his black blade up to block. A massive blue arc slams into his guard and hurls Kang-woo down the path, and he finally has to admit that in this weak body, even his demonic energy is hard to use the way he wants. Kang-woo skids through the dirt, then forces his heels down and raises his sword again. The hobgoblin charges after him, blue power wrapped around its axe as it swings with its full weight. Locked under the glowing axe, Kang-woo feels his arms shake as blue power presses down. He grits his teeth, knowing the real problem is simple physics. The boss's huge body gives it crushing strength. Kang-woo's jaw tightens, and he throws his weight forward instead of just holding. His blade tears across the hobgoblin's side in a blue-black arc, forcing the brute to stagger. The boss howls and leans in, its tusks dripping as it swings down in fury. Kang-woo rushes straight into its shadow, driving a punch up toward its chest rather than backing away. The hobgoblin twists its huge frame and slams its armored shoulder into him, blue power bursting out. Kang-woo is thrown back again, boots scraping uselessly over the ground. Cracks crawl across his armor, and pain shoots up his arm, reminding Kang-woo how low his stats still are. He backs off from the next swing, knowing he cannot keep taking that recoil, and needs one clean, wider opening instead. The hobgoblin whirls its axe, sending wide blue blades of power ripping across the ground. Kang-woo slips along the edge of each swing, letting the attacks pass while he tracks the rhythm of its movements. Driven mad by his dodging, the hobgoblin rushes in with its axe lifted high, pouring power into one giant swing. Kang-woo gives ground on purpose, eyes locked on the gap that will appear the moment that blade comes down. Kang-woo skids across the ground again as another blue slash tears past where he was. The hobgoblin swings wildly with those thick arms, and he can feel from each blow that this boss is on a whole different level than the goblins he has farmed so far. He lets his body slide low over the dirt, watching how the monster uses its heavy arms to drive each swing. For a boss mob, it fights exactly like it should, strong and sharp, and he calmly notes that its power sits far above any goblin he has cut down until now. As he pushes off the cracked ground, Kang-woo notices how the whole area is torn up and littered with bodies of smaller goblins. The boss has wrecked its own nest and lost every underling it had, turning from a ruler into just one more target, running out of options. His eyes glow red as he closes the gap, arm wrapped in dark power. In his mind, the hobgoblin is no longer a boss, just fresh prey, and he swings with the easy confidence of a hunter who has already decided how this fight ends. The hobgoblin slams into the tree, tusks grinding as it struggles to rise. A short distance away, Kang-woo plants his feet and lets dark energy coil around him, certain that the power he has stored so far is more than enough to bring this thing down. His fingers curl tight, and a violent aura flares around his fist as he forces all his pent-up rage into one point, ready to turn that anger into a burst of insane strength. A towering demon made of blue fire looms behind him as the skill takes hold, its fury pouring straight into his body. Demon Crocell's power of rage wraps around Kang-woo, twisting his grin wider as his strength spikes far beyond his normal stats. Kang-woo thrusts his hand forward, and the blazing demon over him seems to crash down onto the hobgoblin instead. The power of rage does not lift his own body this time. He shoves that maddening strength into the monster, forcing all that wild fury to tear through the boss from the inside. The hobgoblin boss lets out a confused growl, eyes shaking as that stolen rage starts boiling inside it in all the wrong ways. The boss's body swells and its skin darkens, that borrowed power twisting it into a crazed, beast-like form instead of tearing it apart outright. The warped hobgoblin roars and charges, every step shaking the ground harder than before. Kang Wu watches it barrel toward him and grins, pleased that the demon's rage really did take root inside the boss. The hobgoblin tightens its grip on the axe as blue energy floods along the blade, then hurls out a sweeping slash that carves through the air toward Kang Wu like a spinning wave. The blue arc tears across the field, cutting through trees and dirt alike, and every wild swing from the boss now has the force to rip the whole area apart. The hobgoblin leaps high and brings its glowing axe down in a brutal chop, the impact blasting the ground apart where Kang Wu had been a heartbeat earlier. Kang Wu keeps moving and coolly sorts through what he just did, certain now that this demonic power was by boosting whoever it is poured into. Down below, the hobgoblin howls with that stolen strength, its jaw stretched wide as golden light burns in its eyes. He realizes the skill multiplies the target's strength several times over, but that kind of boost also kicks back on the one who cast it. A burst of blue force slams into Kang Wu and sends him skidding across the ground, paying the price for pushing that rage into a monster this strong. The boss lurches as the blue force rips past it, shredding the ground and smashing its body sideways with every wild swing. As the boss howls and swings harder, Kang Wu thinks about the price that comes with stuffing that much rage into one body. Kang Wu studies the blast and sums it up in one line in his head. This power is a curse that wipes out clear thought. He notes how the curse strips away reason, leaving the boss to throw wild attacks with no plan at all. Kang Wu weaves past another sloppy slash, thinking how that mindless rage makes it simple to slip in close and stack up openings. The hobgoblin thrashes and roars, but each wild swing only lets Kang Wu dart in and land another sharp blow on its huge body. The boss stumbles and slams into the dirt, and Kang Wu steps in without pause, driving his darkened fist down to press the advantage. The hobgoblin hauls its axe up for one last desperate chop, but Kang Wu is already inside its reach, his strike slamming home and sending a red trail through the air. The battle pauses here for a moment, with nothing in this break affecting Kang Wu or the fight. The hobgoblin's body gives out at last, and the fight is over. A red spray cuts through the air as the hobgoblin crashes down and stops moving for good. Kang Wu exhales and steps back from the toppled boss, letting the strain of the fight slip out of his body. He stares at the blood on his fingers, more annoyed than proud, thinking how annoying it is to struggle at this level. As he grumbles about starting from scratch, the system pops up to inform him that he cleared the whole hideout alone, earned extra experience, and that the hobgoblin he just took down was actually a C-rank boss. The system then reports that his level has jumped by 3 and that his second awakening has opened, granting a new trait called insatiable hunger that lets gluttony pull in even more demonic energy from anything he defeats. Kang Wu clenches his fist, fired up by how fast he can grow again. He admits the new skill is not flashy, but if it lets him squeeze more demonic energy from every kill, then the player system is basically a ladder back to real power. With that thought, he turns to the hobgoblin's corpse, eager to see how strong this special ability really is. He presses his hand to the corpse and triggers gluttony, and a surge of black-violet smoke explodes out, swallowing the hobgoblin's body. Watching the haze coil around his arm, he notices it looks thicker and darker than before, guessing this is insatiable hunger already kicking in. The system calmly reports that insatiable hunger is active, and his demonic energy jumps by 3, hitting 19. Kang Wu studies the thicker haze around his hand and notes how much more he pulled from one corpse. With gains like this, he figures taking down stronger monsters will just snowball his growth. A sharp glint flashes in Kang Wu's red eye as he accepts the result. He decides it is the perfect time to see what this extra demonic energy really did to his body. He lets the demonic energy pour out, letting it crawl up around him like living shadows. Kang Wu had expected to be maybe twice as strong as before, but the weight of the power pressing off his body already feels way past that. As he tightens his glowing fist, he realizes his strength is closer to 3 times what he expected. The speed of that jump makes him frown, since power that climbs for unknown reasons can be dangerous even for him. A thought clicks, and he wonders if the myriad demon palace inside him is acting up again. His awareness sinks into that familiar, hellish space, where a red moon hangs over an endless, churning sea of demons. As he steps through the thick, red water of the palace. He can feel the whole place stirring more than before, and his suspicion solidifies into certainty. He can tell the seal holding the myriad demon palace in check has loosened, which should not be happening. Back in the forest, he racks his brain and notes that, aside from his new awakening, nothing else about his situation has really changed. The system window states that he unlocked his second awakening after hitting level 11, and the timing lines up a little too well. Kang-woo wonders if every new awakening chips away at the seal on the myriad demon palace, tying his climb in power to the release of what he has locked inside. Kang-woo lets out a short breath, the worry fading into a crooked smile now that the risk also means faster growth. He figures that if each awakening weakens the seal, then all he has to do is keep leveling until his old strength comes back. With that in mind, even tougher gates stop looking scary and start looking like shortcuts. He scoops up the mana stone and decides his next mark is clear. Hit level 20 and unlock the third awakening. The thought alone makes his demonic hunger curl around him like smoke. Time moves on as his next goal is set in stone, and life on Earth quietly keeps rolling forward. Later, Kang-woo sits across from Seola in a noisy chicken place, the table loaded with golden fried pieces and cold drinks, feeling more human here than he ever did on any battlefield. He digs into the chicken like a man making up for 10,000 years of bad meals, grease, and sauce running down his chin as he refuses to slow down. He drains the cold beer in one go and sets the glass down with a thud, stretching back with a huge grin as he blurts out how perfect that hit the spot. Seola watches him with a soft smile and asks if it is really that good, even daring to ask if it beats the kimchi stew she makes for him. Kang-woo's mind crashes as he pictures the crispy chicken on one side and her beloved stew on the other, knowing one wrong word could cost him more than any gate. Kang-woo waves his hands like he is under attack, loudly insisting that her kimchi stew still wins by a mile. Seola just laughs at how serious he looks and tells him he is fun to be around. Kang-woo chuckles into his beer, acting like it was all part of the joke. Seola slides one of her last pieces of chicken onto Kang-woo's plate, saying he can have hers too. He lights up and thanks her like she just handed him treasure. She watches him with a small, warm smile, saying nothing but clearly pleased. As Kang-woo gulps down more beer, Sola finally asks if he has anyone waiting for him, like friends or family. The question makes him slow his drinking, the glass frozen halfway as he thinks about how to answer. The busy restaurant keeps buzzing around them, but their table goes oddly quiet while Kang-woo drains his glass and avoids her eyes. Kang-woo calmly says he has no friends, no family, and not even a place to live. Seola's hand trembles at his blunt answer, her fork slipping from her fingers and hitting the table with a sharp ring. Seola, now clearly worried, asks where he even sleeps if he has no home. Kang-woo leans down to grab the fork and answers like it is nothing, saying he honestly has nowhere to go right now. Seola bites back her nerves and says she is not sure if he will be okay with what she is about to suggest. Seola finally spells it out, saying that if he is okay with it, he can stay at her place instead of wandering around. Kang-woo freezes with his hand on the cup, eyes wide, and stammers out a check to see if she is actually serious. Seola toys with her fork and says that even in this short time, he has helped her more than he realizes. She tells him not to worry so much, trying to keep things light, even as she opens up a bit. Kang-woo smiles, a bit stunned, and says he will gladly take her up on the offer. He wishes good luck to both of them, and Seola answers with an eager nod as their hands brush over the fork. Across the table, Seola answers that she will be counting on him too. For the first time, it feels less like a favor and more like a deal between equals. Watching him, Seola can tell Kang-woo is holding back a lot more than he lets on. Kang-woo breaks the quiet and says he has something for her, reaching down beside his chair. Kang-woo sets a stuffed envelope on the table and calmly says, it is around 3 million won as payment for letting him stay. Seola's eyes go wide and she stammers that she cannot accept something like that. Seola clutches her chest, saying it feels wrong to take cash after he has already helped her so much. Kang-woo reminds her she has been spending a lot and is not exactly well off either, telling her there is there's no need to feel pressured since he will be eating her food and she can just treat it as money for groceries. Seola lets out a small sigh and rests her hand on the envelope, grumbling under her breath, but no longer pushing it away. Clutching the envelope to her chest, Seola thanks Kangwoo with shining eyes. He waves it off and promises that next time he will buy better meat for her kimchi stew, which makes him light up at the thought of eating it every day. Seola sets down a pot of kimchi stew, and to Kangwoo, she might as well have grown real wings. Stuffing his face, he swears to himself that he will sell piles of magic stones just to keep this kind of life. With his mood lifted, Kangwoo casually asks Seola if there are any D-rank gates nearby. Seola pauses to think, then tells him there is a D-rank gate not far from here. She adds that she has not gone inside herself, but heard the place is crawling with lizard men. Kangwoo chews on his food, rolling the word lizard men around in his head. He decides to clear that gate tomorrow so he can face stronger monsters, unlock his awakenings faster, and stack more money from magic stones. Then his thoughts drift to the plate in front of him as he wonders if lizard meat might actually taste good and considers asking Seola about it. A bright notice pops up, calling for Korean translators and pointing people toward a link.